Raven Scholar, at its heart, is a succession story. Basically, you have an empire, a fantastical empire that has an emperor or empress for 24 years, and at the end of their reign, contenders from 8 different monasteries will arrive at the capital to contend or vie for the throne. So layered on top of that, you obviously have some pretty overt political machinations. Now, I will say, based on everything I've heard about this, it's nowhere near as heavy or as dark and just, quite frankly, bloody as something like Game of Thrones. But there are political machinations, people maneuvering behind the scenes to give someone else a leg up or to win themselves. And then on top of that, this is a fantasy novel, so the 8 animals that kind of characterize the different monasteries are also kind of the gods or guardians of the people of this empire. And they basically, like any god, can be malevolent or can come and destroy the world. And during this secession, one of the contenders is murdered. So Nima, our main character, she has to figure out who murdered this contender, and then she's also put forth as the new contender for the Raven Monastery. And so she's now also vying for the throne, even though she doesn't really want it. End of the synopsis here says, if Nima succeeds, she could win the throne, whether she wants it or not, but if she fails, she will sentence herself to death and set in motion a sequence of events that could doom the empire, by which they mean the 8 guardians would come down and destroy the empire. So she's trying to prevent all of that while also trying to solve a murder, and in the thick of all of that, clear herself as a suspect for said murder. So that's basically the synopsis of this. I'm excited to check this out, and yeah, come kick it with me. Okay, I'm about a third of the way in now. It's been a very productive morning and afternoon, so I'm excited. And it is interesting right now. I will say that my prediction that it would be much lighter, a bit funnier, and just a little bit more fun than like Game of Thrones did come to fruition. I would not classify this as like a YA. It definitely feels like it is leaning more towards like an adult fantasy novel, but it does have a certain levity to it that makes it a pretty quick read, actually. And like I said before, we're following this woman named Nima. She's in her 30s and she's a raven. So she's part of the Raven Monastery, and she is the emperor's head scholar. And we've come into the story right at a pivotal moment when the empire is ready to change hands to welcome in a new emperor or empress. And there are a couple of chapters that kind of go, I guess, roughly 7 or 8 years before the main action of the novel happens, so that you get a little bit of background on some of the different main characters, chief among them Nima, Cain, and Ruko. Ruko is the Tiger Monastery contender, Cain is the Fox Monastery contender, and Nima will become the Raven Monastery contender, although she wasn't initially, but we'll get there. And basically, oh my gosh, I laugh every time I say that because my grandmother watched one of these videos and was like, you say basically a lot, so now I'm super self-conscious every time I say it, but whatever. Anyways, basically, the Nima is in charge of orchestrating this whole festival. So they call it a festival where all of the different contenders go through different trials, and then whoever has the most points at the end of all the trials will become the new emperor or empress for the next 24 years. And while she's not a contender, she is in charge of orchestrating and putting on everything for the festival. And she used to be in a relationship with Cain. They grew up together. While he is the Fox contender, they did stay in touch and had their relationship developed from a friendship from when they were children and teens into a romance once they became adults. And they had since had a falling out since, right before the main action of this novel happens. I won't tell you what about, but they did. So now she's dealing with seeing him again over the 8 years, the stress of running this festival, and then the Raven contender, her name is Gaida, hates Nima. So she's also trying her hardest in multiple different ways to both humiliate and discredit Nima. And from what I can tell, for no good dang reason. Like, look, all of the things that are happening in this novel to Nima, quite frankly, in my opinion, are completely undeserved. Like, I don't know. She is very humble and self-effacing. So there are moments in the novel where she tries to say like, ugh, well, maybe this is my fault, or I feel a lot of guilt. I shouldn't have made that decision that led to her and Cain breaking up, and some other things that happens in the novel. That kind of elevates her from the bottom of her monastery to the top. And she's the bottom of the monastery, not due to any type of deficiency. It's just because she isn't rich. So these monasteries, way back in the past, decades and hundreds of years ago, whatever, would only allow nobles to go and be part of the monastery to be potential contenders for the throne, but to also hold high levels within the government and things like that. Well, when the current emperor became emperor, he changed that and was like, everyone, including the lowliest of peasants, if they can prove their worth, can dedicate themselves to a monastery. So Nima does, and the Raven Monastery is all about learning and law, so they're very inquisitive, they're very curious. She is a fantastic scholar, top of her class every year while she's in the monastery, and of course people hate that because she came from nothing. She was poor, peasant, and so they treat her poorly, so she's at the bottom. And something happens, she does something, she rises to the top, and of course everyone is very resentful of that. And Gaida seems to be the most resentful of it and treats her terribly, but in such a way that she doesn't feel like she can complain about it, and that if she does complain about it, people will just say, ugh, you can't take a joke, type of thing. And they just treat her terribly. It's like, it's not, personally, I don't think it's okay, even though she tries to laugh it off. She tries to like have a stiff upper lip, and she does a good job with it. And then, it's rough. It's rough for my girl. And now I've just gotten to the part where someone has been murdered. And so she is trying to escape. She's trying to escape the capital, only to discover this murder. And then the emperor summons her. And now she's like all caught up in just the intrigue of the situation, and she's just like, dear Lord, help me, or in this case, dear Raven, please help me. It's just a hot mess, but it's really good. The plot of the novel is really starting to pick up. The characters are starting to come in and have their moments in addition to Nima. What I didn't realize is that these kind of 8 guardians take a much more active role than the people in the novel seem to realize in their everyday lives and the different things that are going on. So that's also really cool. If we're getting Nima's point of view, but we're also getting the point of view of the Raven, who is ever watchful and is trying to guide Nima down a certain path. So she's basically kind of the chosen one of the Ravens, even though the people within the monastery can't stand her and don't think she's worthy. Obviously the Guardian does. So you're getting their point of view, which is really, really cool and really interesting. So you also get this slow revealing of the gods or the guardians and their influence on the world, which is really interesting. So I'm having a good time with this. I actually really like Nima. I think she's a very likable character. I wish she would stand up for herself more. But maybe we'll get more of that as the novel progresses. So I'm gonna leave it there. I'm very excited to read some more later this week. Okay, so I just arrived to work and I've been listening to The Raven Scholar. The one thing that is kind of just getting on my nerves is this whole like Nima Kane thing. They were an established relationship and then something went down. Now they don't like each other anymore and they're like enemies or whatever, but not really enemies. Like it's not like an enemies to lovers situation. It's not like that. It's more of a, like, if they get back together, it's probably going to feel a little bit more like a second chance romance. But the thing that's bothering me is that they're adults now. Their factions, I think, do take them to the extremes, like personality wise and behavior wise. But I feel like Kane is kind of taking the like pulling your pigtails a little bit too far, because that's what it feels like to me, like an adult version of that, but in a way that to me feels like a little bit too cruel. Like Nima doesn't have hardly any friends, and yet he steals her one friend, which is an iguana who can't talk. It's just cute. No, not an iguana, it's a chameleon. But anyways, like, why would you do that? Like, it's just cruel, it's just mean. And he does some other things that just like takes it too far, and then he has other moments where it's like very clear that like he still cares about her, even if they feel like they're at this impasse that they can't get past, and that's why they can't be together and be cordial together or whatever. Like, but at the same time, you can tell that they still care for each other underneath all of that. They just can't get past it. But the things that he's doing feel just like a little bit too cruel. And so for me, it's like, if they do get back together by the end of this book, which is the first in a series, so maybe not this one, maybe another one, but if they do, like, as far as I'm concerned, he's got some work to do to make me feel like it's earned and that them getting back together is like justified. Because I'm sorry, everyone in this book, including the Emperor, is just putting Nima through it, and I swear it's undeserved. It's so undeserved. But anyways, I'm having a great time. Can't wait to get home and pick up the book after work. But yeah, so this has been great. Hey y'all, so I finally finished The Raven Scholar, and it was really good. Probably gonna give this one 4 stars, just because I feel like it. I don't know, my star rating is really based on vibes, and I didn't get as emotionally connected with the characters as I have in some of my favorites that I usually would give 5 stars. So 4 stars for The Raven Scholar, and it was really, really good. I would say this is a really good book for people who think they might like Game of Thrones, but were kind of afraid to watch it because it's kind of extra, or for people who did watch Game of Thrones but still also felt that it was a little bit too extra. This is going to give you some of the same vibes, but with a lot less grotesquerie. Yes, people die. There are a lot of political machinations. There's a fight for the throne. There's magic, which it's not as kind of prevalent as it is in Game of Thrones, but there are like pockets of magic that come up in really interesting, mysterious ways, kind of like they did in Game of Thrones. There's some face stealing, some soul stealing. There's a pantheon of kind of gods or guardians that kind of come in and cause a lot of mischief. And then there are really lovable characters. I really, really liked Nima. By the end of it, I was kind of giggling every time she was on camera. She was the focus, because out of all the books I've read over the entirety of my life, which is a lot, Nima is probably the first character that I feel like I really saw myself in, which is crazy. But some of her mannerisms and some of the things that she did just really reminded me of myself, because she's basically just a well-meaning, lovable know-it-all. And I don't think I know it all, but you'll get where I'm going in a minute. But like, basically, she's part of the Raven, good Lord, what are they called? Monastery, yeah. She's part of the Raven Monastery, and they are the scholarly monastery. And basically, you pick, of the 8 different gods or guardians, which monastery you want to go in or kind of pledge to. And so it's not as if there's some sort of divine calling that comes down to get you, except for one of the monasteries. The other ones you pick based on just your own characteristics and what you think you would like. And so the Raven Monastery is perfect for her because she loves researching, writing research papers, things like that. I don't really love writing research papers, but I love reading, obviously. And she has this quirk where if someone said something wrong, she has to correct them, even if it's well-meaning, and she can't hold it in. She just like blurts it out, even in the most tense moments, like right before a fight's about to break out or something. She's like, ugh, I have to correct you. And it got to the point where it was just like really funny and really charming, probably because I feel the same way. And as I've become an adult, I try to hold that back sometimes, especially at work and things. But you can ask pretty much anyone in my family that like I fail most of the time, but I'm trying to get better. But anyways, I really, really liked Nima. I really related to her. She doesn't deserve half the shit she gets. Not even half. Like, she doesn't deserve like a 10th of it. She really is very sweet, well-meaning, and just at the end of the day, she's lonely and just wants friends. And she's not asking for a lot, to be honest. She literally is like, I just want to like kind of be left alone. I want to have a comfortable life, and I want everybody to kind of just leave me alone. Like, if you don't want to be my friend, that's fine, but just don't bother me. And like, I can get with that. And then the love interest, or the other main character, Cain, is part of the Fox Monastery. So they're natural tricksters, and they're very playful, and they're very outgoing and gregarious, which is hilarious because I feel like my husband has a lot of those traits where he loves being around people and going on double dates with our friends and all these things. And I'm just like, can we just stay home? Like, I don't like so like it's really cute seeing them together, seeing the evolution of their relationship from the beginning of the book to the end of the book. I will say, like, as far as I'm concerned, I think there's a reconciliation between them towards the end that felt a little unearned on Cain's part. Like, there were several times where I felt like he just needed to apologize. Like, like, I get y'all had a falling out and stuff didn't end up quite the way you wanted it to, but some of the stuff he did was just not nice. And anyways, it was cute when they came back together, so it's fine. Sorry, spoiler alert for that. And I will say too that this book is really long, but it reads really fast. You move through it really quickly, which is really nice. And one of the things that I liked is it did have some twists at the end. And I thought I had kind of predicted everything and knew what was going to happen. And there was one twist right at the end that literally I was listening to it in my car on the way to work, and I like almost jumped out of my seat and was like, oh my God, I cannot believe that. And that doesn't happen very often for me in a book. And that was really, really enjoyable. And there were several other moments where I was just like, oh, I thought it was going to happen this way, and it happened a different way, or something completely different happened. And that's always really nice, and always really surprising and pleasant to read in a book, especially when you've read so much and you feel like you kind of know what's coming, or there are a lot of reused and recycled tropes in a novel, so you know what's going to happen. This one was really refreshing in that way, so I would highly recommend it. I would say, with this being the first book that I finished of the year, that 2026 is off to a good start.